Hey everyone, welcome to what is going to be my view for probably the next few weeks. I'm not complaining, it's a pretty good view, but I'm getting ready to rip off the proverbial bandage. What I did was I cleaned up down here in the garage and I set up this nice little table, moved some of the things out from upstairs in our office area, which made my wife very happy. But I moved them down here so that I can get ready to hook up my Megasquirt to, or in place of, this. The reason why it's ripping off a bandage is because as of right now, I've got everything hooked up that this still runs it. Still runs the engine, that is. But there are about 50 wires here that eventually need to be hooked up through this. This is the relay board and the harness into the Megasquirt. But to do that, what I have to do is ohm out all of those wires. There's about 50 of them, at least a quick count. There's about 50. They go up here and to various places on the engine. I have my trusty little multimeter to do that here. Let me show you that really quickly. This is just nothing exciting about this regular multimeter, but I have it set on tone, so I have one of these connected to one side of the wire, the other side connected to the other, and so when I do that, I'll be able to tell which wires go where. But because you can get feedback through anything that might be low resistance, any of the coils or windings or switches or sensors or anything, all those are going to have to be undone. All of the injectors are going to have to be pulled out. All of the wires to the ignition system. The good thing about this is that the ignition system works by itself. It doesn't require the ECM to do that. The ECM actually only affects the injection system. So I can run the engine with a little bit of starting fluid down the throat if I need to start it for some reason. But all those connectors are going to have to come out to ohm it out. All those injectors as well, even the map sensor, the idle air control and the throttle position sensor. All those things are going to have to be undone. And then once I do that, hopefully I can map that out. I'm going to use the connectors right now to poke in there after I undo them and ohm these out, but then I'm just going to basically have to chop them off, cut them off right here, and they will go in these little set screw areas here. See if I can zoom in a little bit more. You can see some of those for O2 sensor, coolant return, it's a coolant sensor, tach input, just a number of things. Those are all the inputs that we have to input there. It's just a stripped wire, and then it goes in here and the wire tightens down, the screw tightens down. Same thing over here. There's some inputs for other things there. And then once we get all that done, then hopefully it won't be too much further to actually start this engine up. So I'll see if I can show you a little bit what I'm doing when I do it. But I don't think you really want to see me undo all of these connectors here. It'll take a little while. So after about 15-20 minutes of trying to ohm out, or finding the best way to try to ohm out these wires, you won't be able to see it from this distance, but there's really no good way of getting an end in here, into one of these connectors, one end from the multimeter. And the only ones I've been able to trace down were the ones from the fuse box, which I was thinking was probably the positive side to the injectors, and I was right. That is there, although there's some other ones here and I can't find where they go to. So unfortunately what I think is going to have to happen is we're going to have to rip off the bandage, and I'm going to have to cut this all the way up so I can physically see where the wires go to. And like I said, for some reason I'm having a problem with it, but this is going to have to be cut off as well so that we can mark the wires what they are. We're not going to be using these connectors anyway, so let's get to it, I guess. Look at all that chicken scratching. It's been a few days, guys, and I'm just going through what I need to siphon this wiring down to. And you'll notice I'm also a ham radio operator, and I've got some radio frequencies out there. Those are nothing we need to pay attention to. And in fact, the rest of this I'm going to try and clean up a little bit. But these are the main things I need to have here. The map sensor. Map sensor, I don't know if I'm going to use the one on the engine or the one that's built into the Megasquirt 2. Let me show you really quick. The Megasquirt that I have actually has a built-in, see if it actually has the, yeah, right there you can see the port to it. The port to it, that has a built-in map sensor. So I could hook that in, and this is the problem. I could hook that in here, but this is the only real vacuum port that I have here. It runs the for the variable fuel pressure on the fuel rail. And then there is the brake booster vacuum, but I really don't want to tee into that either. And the alternative that I have is I can use that wire, I can use the existing map sensor right here. It has the wires on it, and the gentleman at DIY Auto Tune have been good enough to send me pictures, and I'll try and put that in here to how I can undo the built-in map sensor and then wire in the map sensor that I have on the engine. But then we also need throttle position sensor, coolant temp sensor, sorry for my chicken scratching here, it's hard to see, the incoming air temperature sensor, the IAC, which is incoming air control, that's a solenoid, and then they need to hook up the tach or coil. One thing I don't have in here is I also need the fuel pump. So I've got that on there as well. And let me show you the wiring here. So, and I'm going to try and intermingle the pictures that I've got online from the wonderful group at DIY Auto Tune. I know you can't really see these here, but that's IAC, or incoming air control. The yellow and brown is solenoid 1, and red and white is solenoid 2. And in fact, the connector that they've got on their project is a little bit different, but I think I can transpose that and translate the wiring a little bit. Here's the second one: incoming air control, incoming air temperature, and the map sensor. So this one, the incoming air temperature, is the brown, and I guess I should explain. I have a number of these where there's two listed together, and the reason why is because they have a common ground. In this case, the brown, see if I can get these together, the brown and the black are the incoming air temperature, and so I'll need those two wires to hook up to air temperature. And then gray and green and black is the wiring for the map sensor, and that's all actually labeled on the map sensor itself as to which one is ground, which one is 5 volt, and which is the feedback out of it. So I've got those if I decide to use it. This one is throttle position sensor and coolant sensor. Now I know that this is another common black one. The yellow and the black. Sorry about all these other wires here. The yellow and the black is the coolant temperature, or the black, blue, and gray are the throttle position sensor. So I've got those two as well. And then this one actually isn't a sensor per se. Let's see if you can see that. That's the distributor plug. That's the 4-pin plug, and that'll be used to actually control timing on it. So I got wires hanging up there. So those four are the three. One is the black one here. That one is G, and you'll see what I mean when I show you the pictures online. G. The gray one here is what they refer to as B. The purple one is R, and the white one is E. And they go to different things. There is one is just a black, once again, is a ground. Let's see, gray is voltage reference, I believe 5 volts. Purple is the tack wire, and white, actually I'm not sure, I've got some notes scribbled down, I don't know what it goes to, but those get hooked to something on the relay board right there, and I'll show you those pictures. Now the other things which I kind of went past already is these wires, although there's a bunch of them here. So green and red are the one side of the one bank of the fuel injectors, and blue and red are the other side of the other bank of fuel injectors. And then this one here, although I don't have them labeled at all, these are to the fuel pump. So I'm going to see if I can clean this up a little bit, and I'll get some of the pictures off the internet so you understand where those things are going. But I don't know if you looked at it here. This may look like the same picture I've shown you before, but this amount of wiring right here is much less. These all came out of there, and so did all of that, which we're trying to siphon down. so we can have just the wiring that we need. So we've hit a breakthrough with the engine. I hope this video hasn't been too monotonous for you up to this point. I know it's not really following any type of a storyline. It's just updates on the engine wiring and the fuel injection. So I've gotten it running, actually idling or starting and idling. We kind of got it to fire before, but it didn't really idle. I want to show you in the software what I believe what it was that I did. So if I go up here to fuel settings and I go to the injector settings, there's two things. If you see here on the PWM or pulse width modulation current limit, if you have low impedance injectors, which seems to be normally what's used on small block Chevys, you would lower this amount. We don't use it quite that much, but I found out on this engine that the injectors came from, at least what I see them normally associated with, are Ford engines, and they are actually a high impedance injector. So I put those values back up to where they needed to be there. I don't know if that did anything or if I need to change those again. I'm going to go back and look at that. But the main thing is this setting here, different bank settings. When you have that off, it only sees one bank, and I believe that it was only trying to drive or run the engine on one bank. Once you turn it to on, you can set bank 2, although all the settings are the same, but now it sees both banks, and it does start and run. But before we go out of this, let me turn this off here. I haven't changed anything, so I don't need to burn it. But let me show you what I'm going to do. Before I start it, I can only run it for a few seconds at a time because I'm still down here in the garage and I asphyxiate everybody here. But on this version of HEI, this is what DIY Auto Tune used. This has the external coil here and 4 wires, which you really can't see here. They're in this little harness. But those 4 wires allow the computer to control these are just the supply here, allow the computer to control the timing. However, those are not hooked up to anything right now. All I did was take the tack off of the distributor and try and run it as they did with the first, just running the injection, just injection, not timing. But I believe, after looking at this distributor, that it does not have any timing or timing advance inside of it. It is whatever it's set at, and that's where it's at. The timing then has to be controlled by a computer. And to verify that, let me back up here a little bit. I have a timing light hooked up. It's not much of a timing light, but I've got it hooked up to cylinder number 1 here. And I am going to, when I run the engine for just a couple of seconds, you can't see it here, but I do have the timing mark highlighted, and so we're going to see where that is and see if it changes with engine RPM at all, so we'll know if that distributor has any advance in it or if I need to go directly to the computer controlled. It does fire, we know that because the engine runs, but we don't know, I don't know if it's advancing at all. It's not running correctly yet, so we'll see where we have to go with that. Let's get you in the stand. I may be thumping and bumping things for a while here because once I get this started I can't let it run for very long, and I'll need to check that timing over there. So here we go. were able to see any of that. I hope I have some clips that I can use. However, the distributor does seem to have some timing, so I may be able to run without having the computer control it at the moment. I eventually want to do that anyway, but for right now I think I could probably tune the engine to run correctly without it. However, I need to get a radiator hooked up to this so that we can see the coolant temperature. Need to get some type of an intake set up so that I can have the, well, I don't even have it out here right now, but the incoming air temperature to IAT hooked up. I need to have a number of things hooked up. Another thing that I have ordered, which I don't have hooked up, is I have the exhaust, which I can't use on the car that I'm putting this on, but I'm going to cut them out so that I have just a short pipe with coming out of the header with a bung for a narrowband or wideband oxygen sensor on there, and then the muffler on that, so that we can have it quieter. And then of course with all of that, the main thing is I'm going to set up, this is my stand that I had for Volkswagen engines, but I'm going to take this nice little control panel that I started here and transplant it onto the back of this to the engine stand, so that I can move all of this out with it outside, so we can run this outside and actually get it tuned. Well, thanks for watching with me. I hope you can hear my voice relatively well. Like I said, I can only run it for a few seconds and then I have to have the fan to clean everything out. But hopefully the next video that I have, or the next report that I have, will be with this on a stand with the exhaust and everything outside, so I can actually start tuning it. I'm going to put a link to both the articles that DIY Auto Tune used and that I used to follow how to set this up, and then also I'm going to see about putting the not just the article, but they have a little YouTube video of how to do the original setup, and that's kind of how I went through here, or at least started, and then went through and cleaned everything up. But thanks for watching with me, and we'll hopefully get this to come to an end, and make this come to an end, and it won't be too boring for you. The next one should have some more updates to it, should have the stand and be able to go outside with it. We thank you for watching. We'll see you later.